Hey, you jabronis, the world is burning, the Epstein files are out, and somebody owes an apology to that crazy conspiracy theorist in the family. Hey, at least we know the wrestling world is always full of shit, and I'm here to pull the trap door on some terrible hot takes, rumors, and headlines from around the wrestling sphere, such as an alleged infamous tormentor has somebody very surprising come to his defense. Who could it be? And is this bully's reputation complete bully shit? Goldberg, the CEO that an armed, dangerous, and paranoid America never asked for, but sure as hell deserves. Plus, in our topic, it's something that very few are willing to discuss, and that's exactly why I must. We talk race in wrestling and the unique challenges that face black talent in the business, and what it means to be a brother in today's wrestling game. Brother. And we take a look at the body cam footage from Vince McMahon's July car wreck and why we encourage anyone in the greater Connecticut area to stay off the roads on Vince McMahon's granddaughter's birthday. And it's time for some highbrow opinions on some lowbrow entertainment. We're gonna speculate wildly and irresponsibly. Come roll with a brother. And if the last handicap parking spot should be taken by an able-bodied person, call 911 and ask for a police cruiser and an ambulance because somebody's going to the hospital and somebody's going to jail. Let's go!
Let me get rid of cigarettes. Give me a countdown, will you?
Blood streaming, 10,000 screaming!
Ew. Baltimore, you will never guess what I'm watching.
My name is my name.
You chose to live in Baltimore.
What's wrong with Tim?
Hey, yo, welcome to the show. This is and I am Timmy Baltimore. I want to thank you for making me a part of your entertainment week. And if you like what you see, you like what you see, big boy, then hop on that short bus and let your favorite surly little Mark boy take you to the promised land. Help me, help the show. Go to the YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Limpin Ain't Easy. LIMPINAINTEASY. Click subscribe. Click like. Turn on the notifications. Because we know this is a good show, but we just got to get the word out. You know what I mean? And hey, also go to the podcast on any podcasting platforms you may have. Search Limpin Ain't Easy with Timmy Baltimore. Boom. I pop right up. And if you want to keep in contact, see what's going on, check the social medias, X, IG, Facebook, TikTok, all at the handle at Timmy Baltimore. Tell everyone you know, Timmy Baltimore's the real. Hey, what's going on in the world, guys? Does wrestling seem like a little off? Like maybe it needs, I don't want to say a hard reset, but perhaps a soft little reset there for creative. You remember the hard resets on the Nintendo? You pull out the game and you blow it, you push it right there, you jam it. Not like that. Just kind of like the little, maybe just a little soft reset. Maybe some new thinking, perhaps, because it's officially WrestleMania season. And I'm always stoked. And I know the wrestling fans are as well to see what the big plans are that WWE has, what big returns may be happening, what awesome matches, what moments, what surprises, what the creative team has planned for us. What do you got, team? Well, the Elimination Chamber's around the corner, so I think we're just going to have just a bunch of qualifying matches. Just qualifying matches out the ass. And if you like qualifying matches, that's good. Because there's also a women's Elimination Chamber, and we're going to have a bunch of qualifying matches for that. Okay, not really my cup of tea, but how about the big marquee matches at Mania, right? We got to be building towards those, right? Something to really sink our teeth into. What do you guys got cooking there? Well, how do you feel about masked men Like luchadors? No, like masked men, as in somebody concealing their identity. Yeah, no, I don't like that. I don't think that's good. Especially didn't we just do that with Austin Theory? And it was kind of like a wet fart in church. This time it's a little different. We're allowing the masked man to remain ambiguous, at least for the moment, because the plan is that it's going to be Seth Rollins. But in the event he's not ready in time for WrestleMania, he's still injured, then we can plug somebody else in. You don't know who the masked man is? No, it's Seth Rollins, but if he's hurt, then we'll plug somebody else in. Well, who are you going to plug in? Did I tell you we have a box? Guys, it's not great, is it? The hype, the build-up, it's just not there, man. Like, think about how hot things were a few years back with the Bloodline, Cody's return, Punk's return, finishing the story, The Rock. And now we got our second masked man angle in 1 year's time and a fucking box. And then we take things over to AEW. And they recently had their Grand Slam Australia Collision show, which was a big one for them. My biggest problem with AEW, or at least one of my big problems with them, is the same problem that I had with Ring of Honor when I first saw it in 2002. I was traveling with Joey Mercury, Christian York, Mickey James, and I forget which one of them or all of them were booked on one of the first Ring of Honor shows. And I accompanied them in Philly at the Philly Rec Center. I wasn't on it. I was just a young, doe-eyed boy chasing the dream, willing to ring a bell, keep some time, carry some wrestling ring coats. It didn't matter. I just wanted in. But I remember I wasn't smart to like Japanese wrestling. I knew WCW, NWA, and I knew WWF. But I wasn't keen or hip to this like strong style, kick out of everything type of wrestling. And I remember watching that entire Ring of Honor show for the first time live. And I was blown away, but I was also like exhausted. And I remember thinking, this is too much. Like, I don't remember what was what because it was so much. And it shows that Tony Khan grew up probably really liking, perhaps emulating some of his booking ideas from the original Ring of Honor with Gabe Sapolsky and Rob Feinstein. It was just too much for me. I know that's a lot of people's cup of tea. It's not mine. I'm a simple boy. I like my wrestling, good and bad. Throw in the struggle, have a nice story, maybe a personal issue, some clean finishes, maybe some finishes, build to the heat, then a nice payoff. But no, this is like, it's what AEW is. It's too much. Too much fighting on the outside. Too much no rules. Too much blood. Too much gimmick matches. Too many 3-ways. Too many 4-ways. Too many goddamn titles. Okay? Too much picking and choosing when and where the ref and the rules and consequences apply. So the rules keep changing and they only apply when convenient for the story. It's bullshit. Nothing can land, not with any sort of gravity or impact, if there's no rules, if there's no Bible, if there's no backbone upon which to build the anatomy of your show and story. AEW's about excess, right? It's hedonistic. It's like, if everything is special, nothing is special. Why do the heels act like baby faces? Why do the baby faces act like heels? And don't give me that shit. Don't give me that shit that it's modern and we're all playing with shades of gray.
This is bullshit.
You're goddamn right it is. Because what it is it's either guys not knowing how to execute their roles properly or guys not caring and doing whatever. It's incompetence or it's apathy. And at the end of the day, the goal is not to confuse the audience. Sure, do you want the audience asking questions? Absolutely. Questions like, what's going to happen next? Oh my God, what's he going to do? Are they going to actually fight? When is that happening? Not, wait, why did he do that? Wait, is he the good guy? Wait, who are these people? I love MJF. MJF is one of the main reasons that, I watch AEW. We have a proper heel, a proper villain. So MJF is the AEW World Champion, and he had a little bit of a TV mini feud with Brody King that started a few weeks back and culminated at Saturday's Grand Slam Collision in Australia. Now, I loved the little piece of business that they did on Dynamite where MJF was on the apron and Brody choked him out and I believe pulled him in the ring and pinned him. And that's what earned Brody that title shot because that showed that anything can happen, right? That showed that this is just a wild card situation. So then we get to Grand Slam Australia Collision, and it's Brody King and MJF in the main event for the AEW heavyweight title. And it was decent, I guess. Brody's always very believable, big guy. I love MJF's psychology, his pace. I really do enjoy his work. The finish left me going, huh? That's it? He did the little like crotch crown pile driver from the apron, did MJF, and it just kind of it lacked oomph. So it was kind of a womp womp finish. 1, 2, 3. And holy now we get Hangman Page's music. Now, I know Hangman Adam Page is quite popular in the AEW circles, and I know a lot of fans love this guy. Me personally, I don't get it. And Hangman Page is best served as like a mysterious gunslinger. You know what I mean? The man with no name. But he's turned into emo cowboy who's white knighting in the men's wrestling championship. So MJF has just beat Brody King, barely escapes with his title in his life. And here comes Hangman Adam Page. And MJF, having been through a war, just won by the skin of his teeth, stands up. And Hangman Page, like the true babyface he is, high faces MJF, like a good guy would do to the bad guy who's just been through a war. His guts are spilling out. What is that? And then, here's the best part. Gotta love AEW. As we're going off the air, Hangman Adam Page, MJF, face to face, staring each other down. The AEW Heavyweight Championship stands between them as the line in the sand, and the announce team is plugging Wednesday's Dynamite. And I swear to God, they say, and this week on Dynamite, we're going to have MJF and Hangman Adam Page face to face. What? Look, I couldn't make this shit up. I mean, I could, but I don't have to because other psychopaths do it for me. Anyway, let's get the headlines. Good God. Telegram, telephone, telewrestler. It's the Stooge Report. Our first headline, somebody surprising comes to the defense of JBL amidst accusations and reputations of bullying. The Miz was a guest on Michelle McCool's 6 Feet Under podcast, where the topic of The Miz's early WWE career and the rocky start he had, where he was ostracized from the WWE locker room, made to change in broom closets and out in the hallway, and the subject of bullying came up, and so did the usual suspects, JBL, John Bradshaw Layfield in particular. Now, it may surprise some, but The Miz had this to say about JBL's reputation as a bully in WWE. JBL gets a lot of flack for bullying and was an asshole or whatever. It wasn't really him. He was the person that would take me aside and go, "Hey kid, you're doing a good job. Keep doing this. Keep this up." It was more the people around that weren't in the spots. It was the people that weren't solidified that were trying to be like, "Hey, watch me get this real world kid. I'm going to really stiff him tonight. Watch this." I love hearing this because it shows wisdom on the part of The Miz. It shows that he's gained enough perception and time to look back on that situation and see it for what it really was. Because back then, guys like JBL, guys like The Undertaker, they didn't have to bully you. They didn't have to haze you. There were plenty of cronies and jabronis to do it for them. Insecure assholes who, like The Miz says, didn't have a secure spot, so their insecurities took over. They saw an opportunity to do two things. One, to do damage to a legitimate threat to them like The Miz, somebody they knew had more talent, knew was destined for greater things. So they were going to try to take him down a peg or edge him out. And in doing so, they were hoping to also get over with the veterans and the locker room leaders. Now, you may be asking, well, if JBL didn't stop the behavior, wasn't he culpable? I don't know. Who can say, man? It's the road. Shit happens, and you got to keep things moving. But it's also grown folks' business. It's dog eat dog. You're swimming with the sharks for real. I'm sure behavior like this was rarely discouraged, right? And why, you may ask. If you're not in it, I can't really explain it, but I'll try. Because the vets needed to know, they needed to see if that next generation could take their spot. They needed to know that the next generation was made of the real stuff. And if they were going to fight back, or would they eat and no sell it, or would they wilt, break, and fold? And if they did so, that would tell the veterans everything they needed to know, and that talent wasn't ready for the big time. And I can speak to some experience with JBL and The Miz myself, limited as it may be. The Miz may have been eating sandwiches on the road with WWE in this early time period that he's talking about on the podcast here. But when he came home to Louisville, he was busting his ass. This guy was training every day at practice, hitting the road, coming back, doing TV, doing every house show. This is a guy who wouldn't have been denied. He could not be denied. Those who preyed upon him should have known better. They should have seen the fire in his eyes. They should have realized that this guy may be losing the battle, but ultimately, he's going to win the war, and he's not going anywhere. Here's a good story of just sidebar about The Miz, what kind of dude Mike Mizanin is. And I barely know The Miz, honest to God. He was on his way out of OVW by the time I had gotten there. And once I sort of got a foothold, he was well gone. But we used to go out to this area in Louisville, the bar area called 4th Street. And there's, of course, one of the clubs had this like VIP bottle service area. And everybody, we were over. And I had just gotten to OVW. So I was trying to get over. So I went out with the guys, hung out in the VIP. You learn the business in the cars and bars. That's how it goes. I foolishly, trying to be a big shot, bought rounds for everyone and didn't have enough money to cover the bill. And I had a feeling I might not, was hoping I would, and I didn't. And as I'm staring at the tab, I'm starting to sweat. And I see a couple $20 bills slid across the table towards me, and I look up, and there's The Miz. I didn't ask. He just saw the situation, didn't know me from Adam, just knew that I was this new announcer guy, new handicap announcer kid, kicking around OVW, and he bailed me out of that situation, sight unseen. That's the type of guy The Miz is. Now, JBL, I had the pleasure of calling some ironic, or oddly enough, rather, MMA fights with him. Danny Davis was running some amateur MMA shows for a while, for a brief period in time. The Viper Fight League is a sore subject. But JBL was, in my opinion, one of the great color commentators of modern wrestling. So it was awesome to get to call fights with him. And was JBL, did he, give me a hard time? Did he test me? Did he push me? Did he poke me? Did he try to get me? Yeah, of course he did. But I stood up for myself, and he respected that. At least I think he did. And it became just a normal banter back and forth. I'll tell you this about JBL also. He was a last-minute replacement for at MCW Pro Wrestling in Maryland. We had a show in Hollywood, Maryland not that long ago, and Shotzi Blackheart canceled last minute, and JBL was the replacement. Again, short notice replacement. He lives in Bethesda, Maryland, I believe, by the suburb of DC, so he was right there. And I'll tell you this, he sat in front of that monitor and watched every single match and talked to every single young talent who had questions, asking for feedback, and he gave them all the time of day. That's what kind of guy JBL is. As far as this show goes, the only bullying that's happening is Michelle McCool bullying her husband into making him put her on every single professional endeavor he's involved with. And 6 feet under, come on. It should be called Dead Man Talking, right? That's a much better title. Now, Undertaker, listen, Dead Man, between you and I, if you're in danger, if you can't talk, if you need help, just wear your old eyeshadow on the next episode of your podcast, and we'll know, and we'll send help. That'll be the sign. What's next? Oh man, you want to talk about things that just make too much sense? WWE Hall of Famer Bill Goldberg becomes the CEO of Patriot Tactical. That's right, Patriot Tactical. You know, the company that advertises on like Fox News as well as during Live PD or On Patrol Live or any of those like military esque shows. It caters to actual military and law enforcement. We thank them. But let's face it, their bread is buttered by selling fear mongering products to military wannabes, stolen valor dipshits, mentally ill folks who couldn't pass the Academy's psych eval, doomsday preppers, and weirdo adults who want to play army or cops and robbers. Imagine that. Grown folks so obsessed with a make believe thing that they spend their time and money playing dress up as that thing. Absolutely ridiculous. What's wrong with the world? And he had this to say, did Goldberg, about his new business venture with Patriot Tactical. For me, this isn't about putting my name on a brand. It's about building something that stands for strength, discipline, and protecting what matters most. Patriot Tactical is about empowering people physically, mentally, and strategically. We're creating a movement. This is about impact. We're here to change lives, whether that's giving someone the confidence to protect their family, inspiring the next generation to live with discipline, or building a brotherhood of like minded patriots. Yikes. Oh boy, like what a freaking mismatch of buzzwords. I can't imagine, and I'm just being honest here, I can't imagine a more on brand celebrity to sell terrified and armed to the teeth Americans their tactical body armor, their 3 years worth of freeze dried astronaut ice cream, and all manners of plunder to turn their underground bunker from a cold hole in the ground to a cozy home away from home where you can comfortably wait out the nuclear winter and watch the entire Law and Order DVD box set while everyone you've ever known and the rest of humanity burn, bubble, and melt like the Toxic Avenger. Who's more ideal to shill these overpriced douche toys to paranoid hard-ons than a dude who once thought he was the biggest badass in all of fake fighting? A guy who took himself so seriously and got so hyped for a work that he routinely busted himself open hard way on locker room doors. Bill Goldberg's the guy who never got the memo that it's a work and never really got it because he was skull by top guys early on, ribbing him, who thought and convinced him he was really Billy Badass, yet was consistently exposed whenever he faced a test that was mildly beyond his comfort zone, selling bullshit to a hair trigger portion of the American population, completely brainwashed by the babyface heel dynamics of the 24-hour news cycle and bipartisan politics, paranoid that this life is a Black Mirror simulation run by lizard people who want their guns in fertility. Maybe Goldberg can sell himself a tactical SWAT helmet because hard weighing yourself behind closed doors does nothing for the performance except to make your opponent dread having to do business with such a coddled superstar who just never got it. Who better to sell dangerous bullshit? Paranoid, unqualified wannabes who take themselves way too seriously than a dangerous, paranoid, unqualified wannabe who took himself way too seriously. Moving on. WWE color commentator, former standout WWE superstar Wade Barrett was a guest on Inside the Ropes, where he said this about Bad News Barrett's untimely demise. So, like I said, in my entire career, certainly with WWE, I was always the bad guy. And I was always very happy being the bad guy. There was a moment that for sure I should have been turned into a babyface. So I spoke to Vince. Hey, I think it's time to turn me babyface. Vince apparently said in the meeting that week with the creative team, Barrett will never be a babyface. He'll always be a heel. And the only way we can make him a heel, is that still? Wait, I don't know who that is. The only way we can make him a heel is to stop him saying the bad news part. He told me, pronouns, pal. Come on. He told me, I want you to still be bad news Barrett, but you can't say the catchphrase anymore. So the moment that's taken away, then you're just a generic guy in the ring. And I felt myself literally, week by week, slipping lower and lower on the card. Yes, be bad news Barrett. Just don't hit your punchline. That is the backbone of the entire deal and what makes the character popular. But go be bad news Barrett. Like, what? Okay, yeah, Randy, I'm going to want you to go out there and be the macho man, but do not do that voice. Do not say, oh yeah, but go out there and be the macho man, okay? Hey, Rock, come here, Rock. Go out there. Go be the Rock, but don't you dare be entertaining, okay? Don't be funny. Don't be cracking jokes. Don't be talking about Rudy Poos, candy asses, and for God's sakes, don't you dare do that people's elbow, pal. And that's exactly how it goes sometimes, y'all. Bad News Barrett was a gimmick that was beloved and pushed for by the boys. From the gavel to the cherry picker, I'm afraid I have some bad news. Bad News Barrett was getting himself over. So why stop the train? That's the question, right? Why stop it? If something's working, why stop it? I don't know why, but I have a theory. Bad News Barrett had its knees cut out from him for a simple reason. Vince McMahon didn't get it. He didn't understand it. Vince didn't get the allure. He didn't understand why the boys loved it. He didn't understand why they cheered for it, what made him laugh. Scratch that. Why he didn't understand why his talent loved it. Why his WWE universe loved it. And he didn't get it. What was so goddamn funny? What was so goddamn attractive about, I have some bad news for you? Vince McMahon didn't get it. And it bothered him. So instead of allowing a WWE superstar to truly get over in whatever form his superstardom took with the people, because Vince didn't get it, he killed it. Do me a favor, kayfabe, all that. You didn't hear it from me. That's the Stooge Report. February is Black History Month, and taking that into account, along with some recent accusations, criticisms, and outright foot-in-the-mouth moments that have been circulating the wrestling rumor mill as of late, today I'd like to talk about race in wrestling, specifically the Black identity and experience within the professional wrestling business. Now look, navigating the treacherous waters of the wrestling industry and hoping to land on the Plymouth Rock of superstardom is a harrowing and daunting endeavor for those who are bold enough, brave enough, delusional enough to even set sail in the first place. But when we're talking about Black talent trying to make it within the game of pro wrestling, a wholly unique set of challenges and circumstances present themselves. Race, it goes without saying, is a sensitive subject. And it would seem that most folks would prefer to remain hands off for fear of saying the wrong thing, saying something the wrong way, being labeled a racist. But fear's a killer. I'm willing to take the risk for the sake of honesty, for the sake of discourse, to get this thing out in the open, because here's the deal. I've had the honor of working with, and still to this day work with, some of the wrestling business's finest Black talent. And while the subject of race may not be at the forefront of wrestling's conscience today, I can tell you that the identity, the assumptions, the expectations, the preconceived notions surrounding black talent in professional wrestling is a subject that is always right under the surface. And inevitably, like these difficult conversations and hot button topics tend to do, something will always make them bubble to the surface and above sea level. And before we all act like ostriches and panic and stick our head in the sand and for fear of being canceled, try to coax this controversial dragon back to sleep, please, I think it's important to open up a dialogue, looking back at some of the pioneers, some of the black wrestlers who really kicked the door down, like Vero Small, Bobo Brazil, all the way to the black wrestlers before, during, and right after the American Civil Rights Movement, like Bearcat Wright, who refused to work segregated wrestling shows. Sweet Daddy Siki, who was the first eccentric, kind of over the top black heel. That took balls in that era. Then you got the Big Cat Ernie Ladd, one of the great big men and athletes of the game. Great mind, too. And who could forget the Junkyard Dog? Then we get to the more modern times, the 90s, the 2000s, and these black wrestlers started to really establish a foothold for black talent in the industry. Talking about Ron Simmons. I'm talking about Booker T. Talking about The Rock. Hell, we talk about wrestling mirroring society. In the 90s, affirmative action was at the forefront of American politics, and what emerged? The nation of domination. Those guys were awesome. That was cool as shit. And we get to finally today's black superstars. And so much progress has been made. Barriers have been pushed, kicked, but as you'll see momentarily, even with all that progress, we still have a lot of ground to cover. I realize that this subject matter doesn't have a lot of margin for error, so I hope I get it right. Should I end up with my foot in my mouth? You should probably be impressed because my legs are stiff as boards, but seriously, I hope you will give me a little grace here because I'm hoping to approach the subject with the dignity and respect it deserves. I'm not black, I'm a white talent, use that term loosely, in professional wrestling. But I've been around enough black talent and I've seen enough to have an opinion on the subject. So here goes nothing. Speaking of having your foot in your mouth, Kevin Nash, on his own podcast, Click This, was talking about Javon Evans. And he had some suggestions for the 21-year-old WWE superstar who happens to also be black. This is what Kevin Nash said on his podcast. Javon is an incredible athlete. He's a little too Mr. Bojangles for me. I wish he was a little bit more urban. I understand it's Netflix. I understand there's a big world out there besides the one that 66-year-old Detroit Kevin Nash wants. But I just want Javon to have a little bit of an edge. Oh no! That was very Big Daddy Uncool Diesel. Damn, bro. Old white guy who thinks he ain't racist just said something kind of racist. It's funny that Kevin Nash feels that Javon Evans should act a little less Mr. Bojangles, oh my lord, and more street, because I remember towards the end of WCW when Kevin Nash was wearing FUBU and Genko jeans and Tupac backwards bandanas in his mid-40s, looking like the poster boy for midlife crisis. I remember saying, man, I wish Kevin Nash was a little less recently divorced, middle-aged dad who smokes pot with his kids' friends, and a little more age-appropriate soccer dad. Obviously, the social faux pas here is that Kevin Nash, when alluding to Javon Evans' upbeat disposition, his character, he cites Mr. Bojangles. Now, that's just one of those terms or words that even without context, inside a vacuum. That sounds racist. And that's probably because there are heavy racial undertones to Nash's statement. The original connotation for Mr. Bojangles comes from a character who's played by the highest paid American black entertainer the first half of the 20th century, named Bill Robinson. He went from vaudeville to Broadway to Hollywood. And he came along in an era when being famous, being an entertainer meant something. It meant you had to be the triple threat. You had to be able to sing, you had to be able to dance, you had to be able to act. And Robinson could do all three. He revolutionized the tap dancing game. He brought the word copacetic into the pop culture lexicon. Really, this guy's awesome. Bill Robinson's awesome. He's a pioneer, trailblazer. So why is Kevin Nash saying that he wishes Javon Evans was less Mr. Bojangles and more urban, racially insensitive? Well, because Kevin Nash is implying that he believes Javon's character, his identity, his presentation fits inside this white American expectation as to what a black entertainer should be. Nash defines wishing Javon Evans was more urban as wishing Javon Evans had more of an edge to him, a little more you to him, if you will. Well, where Diesel misses his way station here is his failure to see the absolute hypocrisy in such a boneheaded statement. See, Nash feels that Javon is playing a role of a safe and smiling, happy to be here black entertainer per the tastes and expectations of a white, waspy wrestling culture that's taking in the product. So, I get it, Kev. I get it, Big Kev. Javon should reject the cultural trope of the happy to be here black entertainer that you find displeasing and adopt the hard street thug, edgy identity trope of the black entertainer that you approve of. So he should do away with the stereotype that you don't like to adopt the stereotype that you do. And you can tell that Kevin Nash kind of fancies himself a cool white guy, and maybe he is, but he really, I think once the word Bojangles hits the back of his lips, he realizes, oh man, I may have f***ed up here. Because he kind of tries to walk it back by saying, oh man, 66-year-old Kevin Nash from Detroit. We get it, dude. You're from Detroit. You're from a racially diverse city. I'm from Baltimore. Big deal. You're still kind of f***ed up. Race and wrestling, the subject of race and wrestling as it pertains to the black experience and the black identity in the business, is not limited to social faux pas or foot in the mouth indiscretions or whoopsie daisies. No, there are outright accusations of blatant racism. Most recently, Devon Dudley, who spoke up about an incident with Hall of Famer Jim Ross that JR at one point stated he didn't like Devon because of the color of his skin. Now, Devon goes into detail over this incident, which is alleged to have happened at the WWE restaurant, I believe in Times Square, which would have been about 20 years ago. And an inebriated Jim Ross sat down with the Hall of Fame Dudleys, Bubba and Devon. And this is how Devon recounts what happened. Devon says, it was the grand opening of the WWE restaurant. We were mingling with guests. Here comes JR. You know what, boys? You guys are fitting in real good here. Devon? Not too sure. Verdict's still out on him. Bubba knew what he was getting at. Bubba goes, Devon is a hard worker. He takes care of his family and does what he needs to do. Finally, that's when it comes out. He's black. I don't know. That's my hiccup. That racism sure as hell became evident quick as a hiccup, did it not? I don't know how to feel about that. Mind you, when he said it, he was very drunk, slurring his words. They say when you're drunk, the truth comes out. This is a truly bizarre situation. JR doesn't know how to feel about Devon because he's black? What does that even mean? It hardly makes any sense and sounds like the ramblings of a, pardon the pun, blackout drunk. And if it truly went down this way, I feel terrible for Devon. I feel terrible for him having to carry that one fucked up interaction with him for the remainder of his WWE career. If true, what a shitty and confusing position for black talent to find themselves in. Here's Jim Ross, the head of WWE Talent Relations, the guy who hires you, the guy who fires you, who gives you a raise, who gives you time off. He's divulging his racist beliefs behind a bottomless glass of Crown Royal. And I guess the slobber doesn't fall too far from the knockers. What? Because JR's wrestling mentor, Cowboy Bill Watts, also infamously gave mixed messages and mixed signals regarding his bigotry and racism. On one hand, Watts utilized Big Cat Ernie Ladd as his booker at times and his right-hand man, his trusted confidant. Watts also positioned and pushed black talent to the top of his card, made him main event guys, most notably bestowing the Junkyard Dog gimmick to Sylvester Ritter. But one has to wonder how Ritter felt as a black man being told by his racist white boss that you were going to wear a chain around your neck, you're going to bark like a dog, and we're going to call you the Junkyard Dog. We all love JYD. He's a huge star, made a household name in Vince McMahon's WWF marketing machine later, but that is a very real situation and a very real moment that had to happen. And Watts famously says, "The only color that concerns me is green." And I'm sure that statement is true to some extent. But in a 1991 interview with the Pro Wrestling Torch, Watts famously said, "This is a tough one, so buckle up. If free enterprise is going to make or break it, you should be able to discriminate. That's why I went into business, so I could discriminate. It's my investment. If I can't tell to get the fuck out, I should have the right to not associate." I'm not going to, it's really terrible. Holy shit. MISSISSSIPPI burning. God damn. For a guy who claims to only be concerned, the color he's only concerned with is green, the color of money, he sure does seem to have some very well established racist beliefs towards black Americans. Imagine if you're the JYD or Ernie Ladd having to put up with that shit. Yeah, the money's good. Yeah, being a superstar is great. Being a main eventer, a booker is awesome. But that is a twisted, fucked up world perspective that the Cowboy Bill Watts had right there. I got into business so I could discriminate? God damn, mind you, that Bill Watts became president of the #2 wrestling company in the world, Ted Turner's World Championship Wrestling, WCW. However, it was this 1991 article from the Pro Wrestling Torch that I've just previously talked about and cited that got him fired from that position as president of WCW. It was a 1991 article, but he didn't get fired from WCW until 1993. That's right. It took 2 years for that article to come to light and for the people at Turner to go, "Oh, yeah, that's no good." Make no mistake about it. It takes balls for Devon to speak out against JR, even though it's 20 years after the fact. Why? Because WWE and the world of professional wrestling is and has always been a predominantly white patriarchy, meaning the white man run that shit. And you would hope that things would change and progress would be made. And sure, it has. But if you talk to a guy like MVP, he still thinks that black talent is being misused and being slighted under Triple H's WWE. MVP had this to say regarding WWE's misuse of black talent. Bobby Lashley was a 2-time WWE champion, and after Triple H took over, Bobby Lashley was reduced to the mid-card. It's my opinion of how he chooses to book certain talents. Some people say all the time, oh, that's MVP's just griping. MVP's just crying. Okay, well, just watch the product. Who were the people in the top spots under Triple H's leadership? Who were given the opportunities? And I'm not talking about NXT, I'm talking about the main show. How much of that is sour grapes over Triple H killing the Hurt Business? I don't know. I don't think it matters, though, because it took balls. It takes balls for MVP to speak out against one of the most powerful individuals in all of professional wrestling. Maybe the most powerful, who happens to be white. More importantly, and this is where MVP's pretty awesome for doing this, whether it was intentional or happenstance, because MVP brought that discussion into the wrestling lexicon, right to the forefront of the wrestling conscience. Now WWE has been forced. Their hand is forced, and they are giving more tryouts to black talent. And they're also undoubtedly, you can't deny, they are positioning various homegrown black wrestlers like Obafemi, Trick Williams, Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill to occupy those main event top spots within the company in the foreseeable future. And I get that a lot of people, wrestling fans, maybe listeners of the show, they don't want to discuss race in wrestling. They don't want to think about race in wrestling because wrestling's escapism and race is a real life issue. And intertwining a real life hot button issue ruins the fantasy for some, and for that, I'm sorry. But it is my experience in working with many black athlete entertainers in wrestling that black talent don't have that luxury of pretending it's not an issue. When I say I still work with a lot of black talent, I still work at MCW Pro Wrestling out of Maryland, and their school is responsible for giving so many young black superstars their start. Guys that went on to absolute superstardom. Orlando Jordan, Leo Rush. Despite all his controversies, Velveteen Dream, Ashanti the Adonis to Hootie Miles, Bishop Khan, Action Andretti. Then there's guys who are going to break through, up-and-comers who you may not have heard of that are on their way up from MCW's training school. Miles Hawkins, the 99 overall, A.K. Bain. And in working with young black talent, the expectations, the tropes, the stereotypes to the black identity in pro wrestling, it weighs heavy. It weighs heavy on many black talent, though the concern is often never voiced or it's voiced in whispers. Certainly, rarely, never almost, in the presence of somebody who's in power. Why? Because they might get labeled difficult to work with, pain in the asses. Wrestling, you take what you can get. Doesn't matter what color you are. However, that pill can be a lot harder to swallow if you're black talent. Why? Because all too often, young black talent fear the possibility, dare I say likelihood, of being saddled with a character, a gimmick, an identity that is bound to the limited scope of what wrestling's white shot callers deem palatable and marketable. And for male talent, this usually breaks down to 3 black guy tropes, right? You got the thugged out street rapper dudes, the suave, cocky star athletes, and the comic relief. But a big part of being successful in the wrestling business is being self-aware enough to understand how the audience, the paying audience, perceives you, capitalizing on that perception, getting over, becoming a star. So where do we draw the line? Where do we draw the line between potentially portraying a stereotype that, despite being a stereotype, is successful in getting over, and pushing the boundaries for what it means to be a black professional wrestler? 2 guys that I knew very well in OVW and then in WWE. Prime Time, yo, 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 yo. Shad Gaspard, rest in peace. And JTG, a black tag team notorious for bringing the hood to you. These guys, they sold hot goods off the black market. They were very street, a black stereotype. New Jack. Oh, man. White America's ultra-violent worst nightmare. A guy who, when O.J. Simpson was the most hated man in America on trial for murder, was rooting for the juice. Street Profits. These are two guys who look like star athletes. They look like they could have walked off the court on the NBA or walked off the field in the NFL. All of these are three black character tropes, but does that mean they're distasteful? Does that mean they're culturally insensitive? No, not necessarily. Though I think it's better to leave that up to black talent to decide for themselves. But no, in my humble opinion, these are performers who are excellent at their job. They got over. It worked. And they were great TV wrestling characters. Black character tropes aren't inherently bad. Where we start to get into trouble is when we, as white voices, begin to try to saddle black talent with our own preconceived notions of what and who a black wrestler should be, should look like, should sound like, etc. If all male black wrestlers have to be star athletes or rappers, then all male white wrestlers must be nerdy accountants, yacht club preppies, or trailer park trash, right? Nevertheless, it is encouraging. It's very encouraging. It's so encouraging to see barriers, cultural barriers, racial barriers be pushed, warped, bent, broken. The New Day, Swerve Strickland, Velveteen Dream, Jade Cargill, all wholly unique black talent who can't be put in a box. Do you know why Bianca Belair is such a powerful role model? Why is she so inspirational to little girls around the world, but especially little black girls? Because she gives hope. If you can see her, you can be her. Who could ever forget that moment? Night 1, WrestleMania 37 in Tampa, Florida. The main event. Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks, now Mercedes Moné. And Bianca, literally, staring across the ring, welling up, bawling her eyes out, because two black women were main eventing WrestleMania. Kofi Mania, one of the most influential moments in wrestling history. Why did Kofi Mania capture the hearts, minds, and imaginations of the wrestling world? Because it was authentic, because it was real, and because it wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. A black performer who once used a fake Jamaican accent and went on to become unapologetically himself with his quirky friends and cohorts, the New Day. Kofi earned it. The good guys won for once. Javon Evans is a 21-year-old on his way to becoming one of the most valuable players on the WWE roster. He's living the dream. The young OG should be smiling. He shouldn't be snarling. He's just getting started. For God's sakes, man. Let Javon establish a disposition, some character, so he can develop character when some extenuating circumstances or an inciting incident comes along. Then he can maybe show an edge there and it'll mean something and not just, well, I'm a black guy, so I guess I have to have some edge. And here comes Kevin Nash, again, just like the end of WCW, when he's wearing his Lugz boots, his Jinko jeans, and his damn FUBU sweatshirt in his mid-40s, having no business dressing that way, but trying to be cool. Here he is at 66 again, trying to sound cool, talking about Javon Evans needs some edge, needs to be more urban. He done worked himself into a shoot and said some racist shit. But here's an idea for Kevin Nash and the rest of the white power structure within professional wrestling. Maybe instead of trying to assign an identity to black pro wrestling talent, identity and preconceived notions that we're comfortable with, how about we shut the f*** up and listen, watch, and let our modern black stars of professional wrestling tell us and show us who they want to be, who they can be, most importantly, who they are. Oh man, what a week for the show. The two greatest things on the internet, body cam footage and recent footage of Vince McMahon. So what happened? Let's recap. On July 24th, 2025, Vincent Kennedy McMahon was issued a misdemeanor for reckless driving when in his Bentley, he was going upwards of 100 to 115 miles per hour before hitting another car, losing control, and ending up on the side of the road where, after being pursued by an unmarked police officer, he was given the ticket, spoken with, and yeah, the footage is here, and it's awesome. Now, that other car, the driver of that, was Barbara Dolan. She is an entrepreneur in Connecticut, and she felt the need to post about it on Facebook. So here's what Barbara had to say about the crash. Lucky to have survived a horrific car crash. Last Thursday morning, both cars totaled. Vince McMahon, at Mr. McMahon, hashtag Vince McMahon, former chair of WWE, hit me going 80 to 90 miles an hour. I and the dog are mostly fine as I shot off the road after being catapulted over 100 yards. Amazing that no other cars were hit and that I got out of the car, hands shaking for a good 20 minutes, but otherwise seemingly unscathed. Wow. Following Barbara's Facebook post, her personal injury lawyer was found with his head in the oven. Barbara, shut the up. My neck, my back. Oh, sell a little bit, girl. Learn to work. God damn. Let's take a look at this horrendous accident and what the hell is happening here.
You heavy, damn it! What are you nuts? Come on! Pull! No! No!
I don't mean to laugh, but that's fucking crazy, right? Oh my gosh. And now we got the body cam footage, and it's hit the internet as the officer, who was obviously in an unmarked car, was tailing Vince McMahon for God knows how long, witnessed the accident, as we see here, the former WWE chair in his Pepe Le Pew phase, his Spud McMonroe phase. What the? The officer on scene asks McMahon a number of questions.
Do you need an ambulance?
Do you need an ambulance? What are the answers here? Is it A, yes, I'm hurt. Take me to your nearest medical facility immediately. Is it B, no, it's all fake. Don't you know they learn how to hit each other? Or is it C,
Shut up!
Do you need an ambulance?
No, I don't.
All right. Why were you driving over 100 miles an hour?
which leads us to our next question, and a valid one. Why were you driving 100 miles per hour?
Never slowing down, and I'm never gonna stop. Stand by.
Why were you driving over 100 miles an hour?
It's my granddaughter's birthday.
Don't blame the shit on your granddaughter, dog. It's my granddaughter. Why were you going 100 miles an hour? It's my granddaughter's birthday. And that bitch made it around the sun another year. Why were you going 100 miles an hour? I just robbed a bank. I just killed a man. It's my granddaughter's birthday. Good of an answer as any.
Did you see me trying to catch up to you behind you?
I didn't see that. I saw lights, but it didn't look normal.
All right. Yeah, I'm trying to catch up to you, and you keep taking off.
Oh, no. I'm not trying to outrun you.
I know. I understand that, but that's why I was very confused.
Yes, officer. We're all very confused. So, Vince saw you chasing after him, but continued at a high rate of speed with no signs of pulling over. So what exactly does this police officer consider running away from him? I've heard of white privilege. I didn't know that shit came in tiers, dog. How do I get the platinum package? To make things even more strange, the day of this crash was the same day as the untimely demise, almost the same time, the passing of Hulk Hogan. So it's crazy to think, what if that's the text message that Vince McMahon got? And that's what caused him to crash. What if, oh my God, what if Vince had died in the crash after receiving a text message that Hulk Hogan died? Do you know how crazy that would be? If Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan died the same exact day at nearly the same exact time. That's some deal with the devil type shit right there, brother. Come on, it's hard to believe that Vince McMahon was not texting. How can you not be distracted? You're going 100 miles an hour and just plumb hit a lady in the back without even attempting to swerve. So let's take a look at what text messages could have possibly shooken the former chairman so horribly that he would be distracted and crash at 100 miles an hour. Vince, it's your lawyer. She's not signing the NDA. That could have caused the crash, no doubt. Or could it have been this text message? Vince, the maid found your intimate toy collection. She took it upon herself to mail the Bobby Lashley, the Hardcore Holly, and the Giant Gonzalez back to their respective namesakes. I hope that's okay.
Come on!
Golly. How about Vince, it's your granddaughter's birthday.
Come on! Let's go!
That's going to do it for this week's show. I want to thank you guys for hopping on the short bus and allowing me to be a part of your lives. Don't forget, go to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@LimpinAintEasy. Click like, click subscribe, comment. Go to the socials, @Timmy Baltimore. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment, leave a question. What do you want to see on this show? Also, go to the podcast. Any podcast platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Search Limpin' Ain't Easy with Timmy Baltimore. We're in this for the long haul, guys. You know I feel good doing this kind of format. I hope you enjoy it. And I realize that it's a marathon, not a sprint. But I'd win neither of those. So, regardless, holler at your boy, Timmy Baltimore, who's signing off and reminding you that we don't have to get dumped on our heads. Wrestling is just like drugs. You can always say no.
I'm finished.